Okay, great. Well, I wanted to say welcome again. Um, I and my colleague Virginia Davis are here to present a webinar on special tribal criminal jurisdiction, the NOFO that's currently out. And I'm Kelly Stoner. I've worked with the Tribal Law and Policy Institute, I'm guessing 13 to 14 years. Before that, I was a law professor. I've been a tribal judge. And I am most probably one of the most important things to y'all today is I have been working with the EWIC group since 2013, which seems like a very long time ago. So Virginia, I'll turn it over for you to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Kelly. Hi, everybody. Virginia Davis. I'm a consultant working with the Tribal Law and Policy Institute and have been working with the Intertribal Working Group and on STCJ implementation since 2013. I also used to work at the Office on Violence Against Women, so have some experience with the grant making from that side of things. Thanks.
Can we go to the next slide and we'll go ahead and get this started today. And I just will say here too, while we're getting started, if you have a question and you want to put that in the chat, we'll be monitoring that, and we may stop from time to time after each segment to see if you have any questions. Okay, so here's what we are going over today. We're going to be going over the Special Tribal Criminal Jurisdiction Grant Program. We probably won't say Special Tribal Criminal Jurisdiction over and over and over. We're going to call it STCJ. We will also give you a let me stress this, a very brief overview of STCJ. I mean, it is just the basics. We're not getting down in the weeds, but just trying to get everyone on the same page. Then we'll be going over some general grant writing tips. And of course, we'll be ending with questions, but we will take questions throughout the presentation as well. Next slide. Equally important, what this webinar will not be covering. We will not be providing a full range of information along with resources needed for you to complete your OVW application. There's just not time to do that in an hour. We're going to be throughout the presentation providing you with some helpful links. And this is our first one up here for more OVW resources. And I know Marlon will be putting these in during the presentation as well. We will not be going over the full range of federal grant opportunities that could be used to fund STCJ implementation. We're going to be focusing on this one. And we will not, as I said earlier, be providing you a comprehensive overview of STCJ requirements. However, again, Marlon's going to be putting in some very helpful links for you to gather that information. Next slide. Okay, Virginia, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Kelly. And we really want to make sure that this presentation is useful to you all. So I would encourage you, as questions come up, just drop them in the chat. We converted this from a webinar format to a Zoom meeting format so that we could facilitate communication more easily, and so you all can participate and get the information that you need to move forward. So please do that along the way. And also, we're going to go over the material that we have prepared fairly quickly so that we can use a good bit of our time for that back and forth and get your questions answered. Okay, so this is a snapshot of the deadlines and what you're looking at. Marlon, can you drop the link for the specific NOFO that we're talking about in the chat if you haven't already? Thank you. You'll hear Kelly and I talk about NOFOs and solicitations. We'll probably use both those terms. It means the same thing. OVW called it a grant solicitation until really recently, and now they call it a notice of funding opportunity. So don't be confused when we switch back and forth. We're trying to retrain ourselves to say NOFO, but this particular opportunity opened last month. There are two deadlines that you need to be aware of. The first deadline is June 24th, and that's to really just get your grant application started in Grants.gov. It's a pretty administrative step, not a heavy lift to get it done, but you do need to get it done. So be aware of that. June 24th deadline to submit a form called your SF424 in Grants.gov. Pretty straightforward, and the folks at your community that have submitted grants before will be familiar with that. And then the main deadline that we're talking about for your substantive application for this grant award is June 26th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time, and you'll do that in the JustGrants system. All of this information is spelled out in a lot of detail in the NOFO, or the solicitation. We'll talk about this again later, but the first thing I really recommend that you do if you're applying, if you haven't done already, is print that solicitation, that NOFO out, so you have all of this information in front of you. You'll need to register if you aren't already in Grants.gov and the SAM system. You want to do that as soon as possible. There can be a little bit of a delay. And OVW says in the solicitation that they anticipate letting you know about their funding decisions by October 1st, 2025. This is Virginia's opinion, not anything OVW has officially communicated, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's actually a little bit later this year. We'll see. It's fairly late for their solicitations or their NOFOs to be coming out. Regina, what do we, yes.
Oh, no, I just wanted just one thing on for the deadline for Grants.gov. It is 11:59 on the 24th, but for the actual submission in JustGrants, it's 8:59 p.m. on June 26th that you have to submit your application by. So I just wanted to make sure that you have to submit it by 8:59 Eastern time, June 26th.
Okay, thank you so much for that correction, Regina. Sorry about that. We will we'll correct that before we send the slides out. But so everybody make sure you got that. You don't get those few extra hours on the 26th. Make sure that you're in before 8:59 p.m. Eastern time. And also I'll take a moment to introduce Regina Madison, who is also on from the Office on Violence Against Women, to help us answer the questions that y'all are going to have that we just don't know the answer to. So thanks, Regina. Okay, I wanted to show you this table, which is on page 4 of the NOFO. This is just kind of an overview of this funding opportunity. OVW is planning to distribute about $9 million through this funding opportunity. Last year, there were 2 separate grant solicitations or NOFOs, one for tribes specifically in Alaska and one for everybody else. And this year, they've been combined into one. So that's what that note is saying, that even though they've been combined, OVW does still anticipate making, approximately $3 million in grants specifically to tribes in Alaska for the Alaska pilot program. But all of this will depend on, of course, the applications that they receive. This and this is just their estimate of how much money they'll be giving out through this award. I wanted to highlight this. You can see that they say in the NOFO that the expected award amount is between $1 million and $1.5 million. That's just like that's a ballpark, a rough number. It doesn't mean that you can't ask for more than that if you have a good reason to. They have not put a cap on what can be requested in this NOFO. And it doesn't mean you have to ask for $1 million if that's more than you need. We've definitely seen grants through this program in years past that were significantly less than that, even when OVW said you could ask for more. Your job is really to figure out what does your tribe need and to ask for that. And if it's $200,000 for that's great. If it's, over 1.5 million, that's fine too. You just need to be able to justify it. You need to be able to explain it. And again, this is just my gut feeling about it. If you want more than $1.5 million, you'll probably have to have a really good case. So even though they haven't put a hard cap on it. The other thing we wanted to highlight here is you can see in the expected award period, you've got some choices. And this is really to try and, again, let you build a program that's going to work for your community. So you decide if you're going to ask for money for a 24-month period, a 36-month period, a 48-month period, or a 60-month period. Some tribes want to go for a 5-year grant so that they know they have funding for a particular position for a good number of years. Some maybe want to do something that's kind of a shorter term project, and so there may be good reasons to pick a shorter award period. But that is really up to you. You decide what award period you'd like to opt into. The other thing I want to highlight is that there is no matching or cost sharing requirement in this program, so no need for tribal match when you're building your budget. To be eligible, you need to be an Indian tribal government, and you need to have jurisdiction over Indian country, or you need to be in an Alaska Native village. So those are the requirements. You can also apply as a consortia, and a consortium just means a group of tribes who decide to collaborate. You may do that because you have an intertribal court. You may do that because you're two tribes in close proximity. There may be different reasons, but you can apply as a consortia of tribes or as an individual tribal government.
And just a word, Virginia, the word Alaska Native Village is, it's defined, the parameters are set on page 6 of the NOFO if you need that information.
Yeah, and the definition can be a little bit, might be confusing. And if you're looking at it and you are confused, please reach out and we're happy to talk to you about it. But I do really, if you think you're in an Alaska Native village, you are in an Alaska Native village is the shortcut there. Okay, so types of applicants. This award or this funding opportunity is open to both new applicants or continuation applicants. That means if you have an award that's wrapping up right now and you want to apply to continue that work, you can. Or if you haven't had this grant ever before or not in a few years, you are welcome to apply too. The only folks who aren't eligible is if you're in the middle of a 60-month award from FY23 or FY24. So just wanted to highlight that. It's also true that if you're a current grantee and you have a substantial amount of unobligated money, so like meaning you haven't really spent down your existing award, you may or you want to talk to your program manager about that, your program specialist, and figure out if one, how to spend down your current award, and two, whether it makes sense for you to apply now or wait a year. Regina, do you have anything else you want to say about that?
Oh yeah. If you have a current award, I would just say check your finance personnel and see how much you have. And if you think you have like 6 months or a year worth of funding, please just come in and ask for a grant extension for your current grant, and let us give you a 1-year extension, and then you can expend all the money. So, and because I wouldn't want you to waste your time submitting an application if you have a substantial amount of money and you think you may ask for an extension where you can have more time to expend that money. But you can ask for an extension starting now in June if you want to. If your grant ends in September 30th, you can ask for your extension right now if needed. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Regina. Okay, so what can you do with the money? This is a grant program that was created in the VAWA statute. And so the statute says, here's what the purposes of the grant funding are. And that's what you're seeing on your screen right now are the statutory purpose areas for this grant funding. So, and this is going to cover 2 slides. So we see number 1 here is you can use the money to strengthen your tribal criminal justice system, to assist your tribe in exercising STCJ. That can include law enforcement, prosecution, trial and appellate courts, supervision systems, detention and correctional facilities, treatment, rehabilitation, reentry programs and services, culturally appropriate services and assistance for victims and their families, criminal codes, rules of criminal procedure, appellate procedure, and evidence. So you can use it really quite broadly as you're thinking about what you need in your criminal justice system to be able to prosecute non-Indians in compliance with VAWA. I do want to highlight that on both, you'll see a parenthetical on both the trial and appellate courts and the detention and correctional facilities, that this can include facilities maintenance, renovation, and rehabilitation. I think as everybody knows, those funds can be hard to come by. So I wanted to flag that this is potentially a source of funding for that. I also wanted to highlight, because this came up on one of our calls last week, it's not the only thing. You could that's one thing you could do in the detention category, but it's not what you have to do, if that makes sense. So if what you wanted to use, let's say you wanted to build into your budget that you're going to cover, you have a contract with the county for detention bed space, and you want to be able to cover that in this grant, you could totally do that. It's not that mention of facilities maintenance doesn't mean that's the only thing you can do in the detention category. It's just one thing you can do. There was a little bit of confusion about that last week. Other purpose areas, other things you can do with the funding opportunity, you can provide indigent criminal defendants with counsel in their STCJ proceedings. You can make sure your jury system is working the way federal law requires, and that jurors are summoned in a way that's consistent with the law. And you can address crime victims' rights. So that is another thing you could include in your proposal.
Virginia, we have in the chat a question: does renovation include construction?
Regina's shaking her head, and I'm going to
No,
let her answer
no.
that.
No, you can't do construction. You can do some of the reno on your existing structure. And so if you want to do that, you can put the cost in your budget, and you have to actually, because we have the NEPA process, the environmental process, so you will have to fill out some documentation. You submit it to our office, it goes to one of our attorneys, and they will approve if whatever that you're proposing to do, but we can't do constructions. Sorry.
Okay. I wanted to flag, you'll see this when you go to write your grant and the various questions that you have to answer in your proposal narrative. One of the things it's going to ask is whether or not your grant, your project proposal is consistent with priorities of the current administration. And I just wanted to flag, the language could be a little bit confusing. It's new, but it's in all of OVW's funding opportunities this year. It came in with the new administration, and you'll see that they've articulated two priority areas. That first one, measures to combat human trafficking, transnational crime, et cetera, et cetera. And then the second is projects to provide victim services, especially housing, and improve law enforcement response in rural and remote areas, tribal nations, and small towns that often lack resources to effectively combat domestic violence and sexual assault. I just wanted to flag this since it's new, and I know that it's some of it, we read transnational crime and are like, wait a minute, what do we need to have a project that does that? And no, you don't. I mean, I think this is fairly straightforward, that all of your projects are going to fall within priority area 2 by definition. You are tribal nations who are applying to improve public safety and victim services in your communities. So I just wanted to mention that. Regina?
And just one thing from the last time, I always point this out, is that for the purpose areas for the program, you don't have to do all of them. And some people have thought you have to do every one. You have to do at least one. You have to get one, but you don't have to do all of them. And so for the priority areas, our program is not really heavily focused on victim services, but we do have that purpose area, which you're saying right now, number 4, which is about victim services. So we can do stuff around victim services as long as it meets the non-offender, the non-Indian offender and the native victim and the covered crimes. And you can do some stuff. And so to get to some of those priority areas, you can do some of the stuff on purpose area number 4 to meet the priority area. Oh, let me lower my hand. That was it. I'm sorry.
Great.
Thank you.
And I'll just give you an update on the chat. We're getting questions about what is and is not acceptable. And so, Regina, I just ask you to monitor those. We have some about transitional housing and different things like that. And so everybody can monitor that chat while Virginia is speaking, and we'll just multitask here.
Okay, Kelly, let me know if you think any of it we should pause and talk about. I'm not able to see the chat at the moment.
Okay, got it.
I just wanted to add, thank you, Kelly and Virginia. I said one more thing about the transitional housing. We might can pay some of the costs related to transitional housing, but it has to be a relation to the crime. Like somehow if the offender and whatever he did to the victim, and it's somehow related to her housing, then probably we can do a lot more. And so what I've sort of been telling people who've asked about that is that you can put that in your budget, just saying you will provide victim assistance, but you will get prior approval from OBW. And so that means that we can have a discussion about what exactly that you want to do, and just how is it connected to the victim's case, or whatever issue or whatever the perpetrator did to the victim. And it has to be some connection if we want to do like a lot of transitional housing, paying for rent. It has to be an obvious connection. So again, you can put it in your budget and we can just have a discussion about it later, but you can put it in there because it may or may not depend on what you want to do. Just wanted to clarify that.
Now I have snuck a peek at the chat, and Regina, can I ask you the last question that I saw come in? It says, can this funding be utilized for the development of startup tribal court, for instance? Can it help train judges and or any kind of development of infrastructure of a consortia, like an intertribal court or regional court for those who are getting started?
Yeah, yes, that would be part of the plan, and just depending on what you want to do. But yes, that's planning. That's the sort of the point of the program, is to get people in the position to start exercising. And so a lot of stuff goes into the planning, and that could be probably used for planning. Definitely, you can definitely train the judges. We can do some infrastructure development, but again, it can't be major construction, but depending on what it is. So I tell people you can put things in your budget, and let's say we probably won't allow that. You won't be docked for it. We would just probably reach out to you and say, hey, you need to reprogram this because you might not can do this one thing. But we could have a discussion on how you can do it and how we can fit it into the requirements of the grant program. But yes, what you're saying, we can do that. You should put that in your application and include it in your budget.
I saw some questions in here. I think you might have already answered them, Regina, but about technology, and can they use it for that? Let's say as that's a part of their tribal court infrastructure. They need recorders, they need computers, those
Yes.
sorts of things.
Yes, absolutely. I've had a couple of grantees who needed to update they do the not the online, the virtual type hearings, or some type that type of thing, and they needed to update their entire court for that. And so they had to submit the documentation for NEPA, for the environmental issue, well, the environmental requirements, and they were approved. And yes, you can do that type of stuff. It's just that you will have to submit some additional documentation to OBW. But absolutely, you can absolutely do that to upgrade your tech in your courtroom or in your law enforcement. We can upgrade that. We can definitely do that with grant funding. Yes.
And then Carissa asked, is a program coordinator required for the grant? Is that one of the required
Well,
positions?
that was a good question. And last year it was required, but this year we didn't make it required. We just want you to at least have someone there who you can list as being a program coordinator, and you can fund them out of the grant. Or if it's someone that you want to be that you assign that task to, and you don't want to use grant funding, we just want to know who it is who's going to be the main lead person on the project. So not technically, well, I wouldn't say, well, we didn't say it was required, but we just want to know who is going to oversee the project.
Great. All right. Well, I'm going to get through these slides. I can tell there's a lot of questions, and this is great. So let me just cover a few more things. This you'll see, application requirements. This is just the parts that'll be scored. You can see there's a proposal narrative that's got three main parts: purpose of the proposal, what will be done, and who will implement. For each of those, there are very specific questions in the NOFO that are outlined that you should answer. And our best tip is, and Kelly and I both served as peer reviewers too, meaning we're grant reviewers sometimes for DOJ. I really recommend taking all those questions in the solicitation that they want you to answer, and even just cutting and pasting them into your Word document and answering underneath, so that you make sure you don't miss any of the questions. And if some of them aren't relevant to you, I would still cut and paste the question into your Word document and then say, not applicable, or this doesn't apply to us. But that way it just makes it so much easier for the peer reviewers and for you to make sure that you don't miss something. So anyway, but you'll see all of that laid out in the solicitation, and we think it's helpful and encourage you as a grant writing strategy to think about this number of possible points and how things are weighted. And so as you can see, the purpose of your proposal and what you're going to do is worth 80% of the total score you're going to get. So who's going to do it? Spend less time, fewer pages. You've got a 25 page limit for that proposal narrative in general. And so just to be thinking about that and aware of what sections are going to have the heaviest weight for your score in the review process. Also, you need to do a budget worksheet and narrative. Again, there's detailed instructions in the NOFO, including links to a template. The first time you have to do a DOJ budget, it can make your head spin, but they've really done a lot to try and make it easy. There's a downloadable Excel spreadsheet on the website, OVW's website, that should hopefully walk you through it. And again, it's 10%. So do it. If you don't get it quite right, it won't kill you, and OVW will work with you to refine your budget when you get your award too. So also really important that you have to be able to submit a documentation of your authority to apply. And that information, again, is all in the solicitation. It might be a tribal resolution. It might be a letter from the, your tribal executive. But you have to have it, and it's important. And I know for some tribes, kind of getting in the queue to get that done can take a little bit. So wanted to flag that for you today so that you could make sure you got your internal process rolling to get that documentation. Regina, did you have something you wanted to say about that?
Oh no, Virginia, you said, I just want to let people know is that it can be either a tribal resolution or it can be a letter on tribal letterhead signed by the head of the tribe or tribal council. So some people, it takes a process, particularly get their tribal the resolution, but you can also do a letter and we will accept that. Thank you.
Great. Yeah,
Just
don't forget
go ahead. I'm sorry. I wanted to highlight this is a requirement, so don't let this be an afterthought. This is super important to your success.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
I think Kelly and I both noticed in reviewing the NOFO that OVW has said, oh, if you forget to attach a document like your budget, your proposal narrative, we might reach out and ask you for it. But if you forget to attach your authority to apply, we won't reach out to ask you for it. So it's just really important. Don't forget that piece. And along those lines, don't forget anything. OVW on page 24 of the NOFO has given you this really helpful checklist. These are all of the things that you need to submit. You can see that there are a number of pieces of paper. This is also really helpful because it's laid out. It's telling you what's required, if you're going to submit it through an online form that you fill out in the system, or if it's going to be an attachment that you've done separately. And then it tells you which system, are you in Grants.gov, are you in JustGrants, and then a place for you to keep track of what you've done. Really use this checklist. This will help you stay organized and stay on top of all of the moving pieces. You can see there's quite a few things. Again, the ones that get scored are that proposal narrative and the budget worksheet, but all of this is important, and you want to keep track of it. Okay, Kelly, I'm going to turn it back over to you and to talk about this or to check in on questions.
Okay, here we have a question from Carmen O'Leary. Can we hire a consultant to write the law and integrate? Oh, Regina's already on top of it. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. A tribal code to include the STCJ covered crimes. And I would think also any jury trial requirements, anything related to STCJ. Regina's shaking her head. Yeah, you can do all those things. So I'm going to really blaze through the next 5 slides. Again, didn't promise this down in the weeds sort of thing that Virginia and I really love to do. This is just a very superficial nuts and bolts of STCJ. We now have 9 covered crimes, and they're listed here on this slide. In 2013, we had the first 3. The domestic and dating violence were changed a bit in 2022. In my mind, making it much easier for tribal prosecutors to prosecute. We now have sexual violence, stalking, sex trafficking, child violence, obstruction of justice, and assaults against justice personnel. So those will be your 9 covered crimes, the categories of crimes that tribes can prosecute non-Indians for committing in their Indian country. Next slide. Okay, we wanted to briefly touch on the due process requirements in order to implement STCJ. All the applicable rights under the Indian Civil Rights Act, which you all probably know where it is, but we put the site there for you anyway. If any term of imprisonment may be imposed, also all of the due process rights in the Tribal Law and Order Act, which is also located in the Indian Civil Rights Act. So, and it says may be imposed. And I think that's important, because I've heard people say, oh, well, I'm not going to ask for jail time. If your sentence contains the possibility of imprisonment, it's best for you to go ahead and provide those TOLOA rights as well. And any additional rights by VAWA 2013 and 2022, we'll go over those here in a slide. So next slide. So ICRA is a big deal. And here are the ICRA due process requirements. You can kind of look down through those. The right to jury trial is going to take on a little bit of a different appearance probably than before VAWA. Let's go to the next slide, Virginia, unless you think I need to go over each and every one of those. The TOLOA due process requirements I referred to: effective assistance of counsel, equal to what you would get in federal or state court, free appointed licensed attorneys for indigent defendants, tribal judges with sufficient legal training who are licensed to practice law in any jurisdiction in the United States. That includes tribal jurisdictions, publicly available tribal criminal laws and the tribal rules of evidence and tribal criminal procedures, publicly available. Many tribes are putting those online. Maintain a record of criminal proceedings, including audio or video, a way to record the trial for if it goes up on appeal. And the more VAWA due process rights, these were the ones that VAWA added. The tribal court must provide the right to trial by an impartial jury that is drawn from sources that reflect a fair cross-section of your community. And it doesn't, the summonses you're pulling in does not systematically exclude any distinctive group, including non-Indians. Don't let this blow your mind, because we have all sorts of resources on this. We've done worksheets on this at the Intertribal Working Group, but that is a requirement. So if you need to adjust your codes and other things that we'll go over later, be thinking about that. And the tribal court must ensure defendants are timely notified in writing, that's the new key here, of their federal habeas right. Okay, next slide. Virginia, I think it's going back over to you.
Well, I thought it was you, but we can both talk about it.
Okay.
This was just a slide trying to, okay, so what might you include in your grant proposal? All those things Kelly just talked about, they're different. You may, depending on where you are, again, you might be a tribe who's just starting to think about this, or you might be a tribe who's already prosecuting non-Indians and you're looking for funding to keep doing that. But if you're just getting started, as Carmen asked in the chat, you may have a need for code development, and you can definitely build that into your grant, hiring a consultant, doing that on a consultant basis, or covering the time of one of your attorneys or someone on your staff. I've seen some tribes actually structure it so the first year they're hiring a new prosecutor, and the first year of that person's job is code drafting, and then they'll start prosecuting the cases. So you can structure it in any number of different ways. That gets to the second bullet. Obviously, you can cover personnel with this. There are a number of different folks who will be involved, and you might be able to cover a portion of their salary, or if they're dedicated to these types of cases, their whole salary. As Kelly mentioned, your laws need to be publicly available, and so a really great use of grant funds might be paying for a code publication service to get your laws all in order and up and available online. Some tribes have used the funding that way, or to buy a system that allows them to record their court proceedings and to really upgrade that infrastructure, since that's another requirement. Again, jury pool selection, there can be some again, hiring consultants or other costs associated with that. Law enforcement training, really training for anybody. Your judges may need training. Again, detention costs. Victim services, to the extent they're related to these cases. Again, Regina talked about that a little bit. We've had tribes asking recently about offender rehabilitation or treatment, how folks are approaching that, and you can definitely build that. We had a conversation recently with a tribe who was wondering, well, the tribe's not sure, what does it mean for the tribe to start using kind of tribal funds to provide rehabilitation and treatment for non-Indians, who are convicted, but maybe that hard decision is a little bit easier if you've got grant funds specifically for that. So that's a cost you could cover here. Medical costs for non-Indian detainees, those can sometimes be tricky to figure out how to cover otherwise, since usually your Indian inmates in a jail facility would have access to Indian Health Service, but non-Indians don't. So that's a common cost that we'll see built into a grant budget once you're actually prosecuting. Probation costs, and we put in parentheticals here, ankle bracelets, just to help you think of it. That's not to suggest that's what everybody's doing, but that kind of thing, you could do too. If you want to create a domestic violence court or docket, that we've seen some tribes use the funds that way, or case management systems, and training for travel. Travel for training is actually a requirement. You'll see that laid out in the NOFO. There's a certain amount of costs related to attending meetings that you'll need to include, and then you might want to do additional too, and some tribes have been using some of their funds to bring training on site as well, so to bring outside trainers in. Regina, did your hand go up?
Yeah. Again, thank you, Virginia. And one thing I also want to talk about in terms of your travel and training funding, you can use your funding to, let's say, go do an on-site visit at a tribe who is currently exercising. Maybe you have a question on how their tribal court is set up, how they're doing law enforcement. You can use some of that funding, or you can include that in your budget. Say, hey, we want to do an on-site visit to someone who's currently exercising. You don't have to know who they are. You can get some suggestions from TLPI, who is the TA provider, technical assistance provider for this program, or myself, or as you come to the ITWIG meetings, you can maybe talk to people. So I just wanted to let you know that that's also an option, is that you can go out and actually see a tribe who's doing what you want to do, or you have an idea you might want to go down that path in law enforcement exercise. And so I just want you to keep that in mind, and you can include that cost for the training for that kind of travel in your budget as well. Thank you.
Regina, I see one question here. Will this cover a vehicle purchase for probation?
No, we can't. No vehicle purchases. Sorry. No.
Okay, and then I have a couple of things I'd like to add, unless Regina, you want to add anything to this list of potential needs. I just wanted to give a plug for victims' rights. What a great time. If you look at your victims' rights, and TLPI has publications on drafting victims' rights for tribal courts. If you want to really revisit that and put that in your budget, I think the victims would be very grateful for that. And also, one thing we've been seeing today that maybe we didn't put on the list, although it might fit in a couple of these categories, is tech needs. Tech needs for a whole host of different things. So systems can communicate with one another, and all again relating back to STCJ. Okay. Okay. And
go ahead.
Did you see that that Carissa's put in there? It says, will you just put TBD for travel for other tribal courts, Regina?
So Carissa, what you would do is say that, the line item could be an on-site visit to an exercising tribe, in parentheses, TBD. You give an estimate of how much it's going to cost, 5,000-6,000. I mean, this is going to change. It won't be exact, but at least we'll know what you want to do, and that we know eventually you're going to do that, and you'll hone down the cost once you get an idea. So absolutely, you can do that. And I just wanted to add a couple of things about victims. So I've had a couple of applicants ask about, can grant funds be used to assist the victim if he or she is not involved in a court case with the non-Indian offender. And no, if the person is a victim of a crime by a non-Indian offender, one of the covered crimes, he or she doesn't have to be involved in a court case. They just have to, the offender just has to be non-Indian, and you can provide those victim services to her. It doesn't have to, it doesn't even have to be a court case. She can even self-identify. I come in and it was a non Indian offender. So it's just, you just track that information in case there's an audit or we come site visit you, but you don't have to, he or she doesn't have to be involved in the case is what I want to say. And the second thing is that I've had a few grantees ask for security type things for the court, like a security wand. I mean, those type of purchases can also be allowed with STCJ funding. I just wanted to add those two things. Thank you.
Thanks, Regina. Kelly, I think, we have a couple more slides that are about grant writing tips, but I think it's more important to keep getting people's questions answered. So I'd like, anyway, so open it up, folks, if you have additional specific questions.
And we have Kayla at the Alaska Native Justice Center. They are the STCJ TA provider for Alaska. She's online right now, and if you have questions or interested in joining the Alaska pilot program, reach out there. Okay, we'll wait on questions. Surely you have questions.
All right.
I'll ask a question.
Great.
I'm a TA provider, but I'm going to ask a question. What about software where an appellate court or even a district court could publish their opinions? Could it only be STCJ opinions, or would they be able to use the software for everything? Is that too convoluted, Regina?
I am so sorry, Kelly. I was starting to answer a question. Can you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
Yes, if a tribe is interested in putting in their budget, what would you call that? A software program or something, so the district court could publish their opinions, or an appellate court could publish their opinions. Would it be restricted only to STCJ opinions, or?
No, I mean, probably not, because that would just be too difficult. Just like the case management system, when we support a case management system, it has to be for all cases, but at least it makes it easier for you to pull out the ones specific to STCJ, even though we're funding the whole system. And that would be the same with that. I mean, it'd be used for both purposes, but as long as if information is asked or audit is done and you can show, hey, this is how we STCJ cases here and opinions here, that's pretty much all that we sort of will need or require. So yeah, it can be used for both. And even though we fund it under STCJ, that is part of what you would be doing with it. So that's fine for us. That's good for us.
Kelly,
okay. Do you want to answer?
We're tripping over each other. So we've got Carissa. I would encourage you to come off mute and ask your question if you're good with that.
Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna have some background noise. I apologize for that. So we've always been told that if you have somebody already on staff, you cannot add them to a grant because that's supplanting. So if I have a prosecutor that's already on staff, but they're going to be the ones that are hearing all of the STCJ cases, am I allowed to do a percentage of their salary through the grant?
Yes.
I'm sorry that I can't hear you.
Oh no, go ahead. Finish up. Go ahead.
And so same thing would be for the program coordinator. It would probably be myself that would be the program coordinator. I'm already an employee, so I would just do a percentage of what my salary is.
Yes, you can do that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
And so someone asked about a body scanner for corrections. Yes, that is an equipment purchase that we could do under our grant. Yep. Yes. Traced asked about if our tribe had an STCJ grant that closed in September 2024 but had no activity in 2024, would that be categorized as continuing or new? It could be categorized, Trace, as continuing, because I think within a solicitation, if your grant closed within 12 months of, it's some date I have in there, I'm sorry. So I think you'd be considered a continuation grant, a continuation grantee, even though your grant is closed, but it closed within 1 year of the solicitation release date or 1 year of the solicitation release close. I can't even, I mean, solicitation close. I can't even recall. So yes, continuation. Uh, I'm sorry, you've mentioned that this funding can be utilized for training of law enforcement. Yes, it can. Will it fund a collaboration with a VPSO or COPS program that provides support? Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. We would absolutely, um, that would absolutely fund that type of collaboration. We would just, you would detail that in your proposal narrative. And so if we have any questions or anything, we would just reach out to you. If we had some concerns, we would just let you know. But yes, you can.
You know, one thing
And
that Kelly and I said we wanted to stress when we talked yesterday, and neither of us have mentioned yet, but also just, you know, this choosing to apply for this grant doesn't necessarily mean that during the grant period you're going to start prosecuting non-Indians in your court. It may mean that you're working towards it. It may mean that you're exploring whether or not you want to do it. So I just wanted to make that really clear. You don't necessarily have to, and when you're looking at the questions that the NOFA wants you to ask, it may ask like, when do you think, you know, what do you have in place, and kind of assume that you're working towards that. But just wanted to make really clear that you don't have to, you could, if you wanted to, decide you're going to go for a 24-month grant, so a 2-year grant that will help you assess whether this is a good fit for your community and start having internal conversations about it. And then, you know, and that's all you're going to do this time. Or maybe you're going to get your codes also publicly available in case you want to do it down the road. So there's a lot of flexibility if you're still in the process of figuring out if you want to take this on as a community. I see Nicholas' question, will this grant help us start our tribal court? It can. Regina, do you want to speak to that?
yeah, I mean, you know, can't construct it, unfortunately, but you know, in terms of helping you get some of the AV stuff you may need, you know, with trying to furnish the court, trying to get some security apparatus in there. Yes, our grant can definitely assist with that. And I also always want to point to people who are applying, you are probably unsure of what you really sort of want to do. And so yes, the point of your application is to give us an idea of what you're thinking or what you want to do. But please know this is going to change. I have had not one grantee who has not needed to change. So yes, this is what you initially thought, but once you get in and get the grant and start doing things, you might need to do something else. So please know that there's some flexibility for you to make project changes. You know, we this is not what you submit. It will not be in stone for us. I mean, it might be for you, but just know that, you know, you don't have to be 100% sure what you want to do. You know what you want to do right now, what's in your, what you have a thought of what you want to do. That's what you fill out the application for, to give us an idea of what you want to do. But we all know, as you go to ITWIG meetings, as you start doing stuff on the grant, you're gonna say, hey, you know, maybe we don't need this particular item. You know, can we reprogram this money? So yes, you can. I just want you to know that there's some flexibility to make changes. That what you put in your initial application, and I have every grantee has had to change something. What you put in your initial application probably won't be what it looks like in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years from now. So, and just let you know you have flexibility to make changes. So you don't have to know everything exactly right now.
One of the things, thank you, Regina. One of the things also, Virginia, we talked about yesterday, and we said we're going to say this many times, is encouraging you all to apply for this grant. Just saying, apply for it, but put in your authorization letter. That's important, or resolution. Do you want to add anything to that, Virginia?
No, I'm sorry. I scrolled through slides unintentionally, so sorry if that distracted you.
Not in the least. I was just chatting away here.
Yeah, I think I distracted myself, honestly, by accidentally scrolling through the slides. But the other thing I wanted to say was, for those of you, if you're brand new and you're not exactly sure where to start, or you're thinking about how you could use this, and you know you're on a long path to having a tribal court that's in a place to prosecute non-Indians, please reach out. If you're in Alaska, really reach out to the Alaska Native Justice Center. You can also reach out to Kelly and I. We work very closely with them and will connect you, but please reach out and they can help you think through how you could use this funding source to help move in the direction that your community wants to move. And if you're, outside Alaska, obviously, please reach out to the Tribal Law and Policy Institute. We know that you all have a tight turnaround time to get this grant application in. And we really want you to have the support that we can give you to help make that deadline, because this is a grant that has been really helpful to the tribes that have applied for it. And there are some years when not enough tribes apply even for OVW to give away all the money. So we really encourage you, if you're thinking about it, to get it in the next couple of weeks. Okay, Kelly, interrupt me anytime if you see other questions come in. I'm going to real quick just talk about some of these tips for submitting your proposal. Again, I've said most of these, Kelly and I've said most of these already, but print that NOFO, use it as, there's so much good information in there. There's so much good information in there that it can be overwhelming, but it is your resource. And if you've got a question, OVW has thought about the answer and you can find it. And if you can't find it, email me and Kelly and we'll help you find it, or Regina, we'll all help you find it.
Can I do one tip? Can I
Yes.
do one tip right there? Don't reword the headers. The little headings in there, don't reword them. Virginia suggested you cut and paste, because nothing makes a peer reviewer want to drink more coffee than to sit down with 10 or 15 grants to score, and we can't tell which heading goes where. So follow it. It's like your roadmap. Cut and paste those headings. That's it.
Yes. There's a bunch of resources available on OVW's website. Again, that NOFO, which is really your go-to resource, tells you where to find them. So again, specifically on the budget, you may feel overwhelmed when you see what the budget requirements are, but they've got really helpful resources that should make it easier for you. Don't wait until the last minute. It's always a little bit more time consuming than you think. A tip, we would encourage you, just go back and review your project narrative. And again, compare it, make sure you've got all those questions specifically that they asked in the NOFO answered. Same thing with your budget. You want to make sure that you are linking together whatever you've said you need to do in your community should link up with what you say you're going to do. So just be thinking about that. Unsuccessful applications, often it's you've not responded to all the requested information. We've talked about that a lot. Failing to make that connection between the problems and what you're planning to do. And sometimes we also see that different people have worked on one proposal and they're saying inconsistent things. And so read the whole thing. PDF things if you can. It helps with the attachments. They go through more clearly or easily. Label everything clearly. So, your project narrative, your budget, label it with things that help people find what they're looking for. And that would also help make sure that you get the right things uploaded and attached. Check, they do have formatting instructions at OVW. They want it a particular font, a particular size, a particular number of pages. So just be on the lookout for that and set it up the way they want it. Kelly, anything else on here that you would stress?
I would stress fourth from the bottom, make it easier for the reviewer to read and score. We will have that NOFO right out in front of us. We will have a score sheet that matches that NOFO in front of us. And it's just so nice and smooth when we can just go down the list there. Don't change anything up.
All right, now we really did get through all our slides. Have we had any other questions come in?
Regina's been answering. There was a question about whether Alaska tribes have there been any Alaska tribes who received funding under this grant? And Regina's answered yes. Anything else? I mean, we have 5 minutes for you all to ask anything you want about applying for this proposal. Just don't be overwhelmed. Just, yeah, just make a good try at it.
I mean, and someone also asked about tribal governments funding, which is a different program, and it closes on the same day. So if you're doing both, which you're allowed to do, you can apply for multiple awards under OBW overall, under the Tribal Affairs Division. So the tribal governments grant is a little bit more broad. Like they have a transitional housing purpose area. So like some things that you're limited with under STCJ, tribal government's a little bit more broad. So they complement each other. So I encourage you to apply for both. And you absolutely, if you're eligible, particularly, but you can apply for both because you're a tribal government or Alaska Village, you can apply for both grants. So I just want to put that out there because they complement each other. And tribal governments is way more broad. They have a lot more purpose areas. You can do a whole lot of stuff. And I'm somewhat a little bit limited, but you can do a lot of stuff under STCJ. So apply for both. It won't hurt.
I see Carmen's question asking what TFMC is what, because someone had mentioned resources at the TFMC. Is that the, I'm going to go with Tribal Financial Management Center. Anybody know? whoever referenced TFMC, if you could give us a link, I think people are curious to see the resources. Janie, to answer your supplantation question, the answer is no, it would not be considered supplanting.
No.
Great, Regina agrees with me, which is more important. Her answer's more important. If we missed any of your questions, please let us know. We didn't mean to, so if you put something in the chat that hasn't been answered, feel free to just take yourself off mute or retype it, whatever is easiest for you.
We're getting some more questions coming in. Virginia, do you want to?
Yeah, so okay, so the last one's the easy question. When is the next ITWIG meeting for the national ITWIG outside of Alaska? We're planning for December. I think we're in a save the date to be confirmed kind of situation, but early December in back in South Carolina at the federal facility, the
National Advocacy Center. Yep. Yep. So I always like to say Leslie Hagen's place, right?
Yeah, Leslie's hosting us again, so stay tuned for that. For those of you that are in Alaska, the next Alaska ITWIG Intertribal Working Group meeting where we talk about all of this is in September. Kayla, can you drop details in if you haven't already? Sorry, I haven't been following the chat. Let's see if Kayla, yeah, Kayla is still here. So if you haven't, anybody's welcome. If you don't know what we're talking about with the Intertribal Working Group, you'd love it and you should come. So we have a national group where everybody's welcome, and then an Alaska specific group that meets up in Alaska. Nicholas, to answer your question, can you use this funding to hire tribal police officers with the tribal courts to help their city? Yes. Definitely something that you could do, and I would talk that through when you reach out to ANJC. I would talk that through with them too. Sydney has dropped in information about OVC's Tribal Financial Management Center, so that is the TFMC resources that were referenced. Thanks, and Kayla has put in the information about the September Alaska ITWIG meeting. So if for those of you from Alaska, we hope to see you there. Well, we will send a wrap-up email with the various resources, including all of the contact information that was shared. And really, I know I speak for myself and Kelly and Regina and Chia and Kayla and everybody else. We want to help you. So please do reach out if we can help you with anything. We know that this is an overwhelming process. We know it's a tight timeline, and we are rooting for you, and we want to help you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Kelly, or Regina, any final wrap up?
No, just go forward and we're here. So good luck to all of you.
Yes, good luck. Please apply.
All right. Well, thanks everybody.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.